Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Rammer, jammer, yellow hammer, come see how we rock this. Alabama fans the best, there's no way you can top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
The Crimson Tide just wrapped up a huge recruiting weekend. Will they be able to land some of these guys? I'll talk about that and more on this episode of The Process. But thank you guys so much for joining me. I am Justin Smith, the Director of Recruiting and Managing Editor here at Touchdown Alabama. Like I said earlier, I'll talk about some recruits who were on the campus of the University of Alabama over the weekend. I will also talk about some recruits who made some moves in terms of their recruitments, in terms of the direction their recruitment is heading in, and they are prospects who are considering Alabama as well. I'll talk about that along with those official visitors. But first, we're going to talk about the Crimson Tide's 2026 quarterback recruiting efforts. As I've said on previous episodes of the process, the Crimson Tide wants to add a quarterback to the 2026 class. And one of those guys were on campus over the weekend for an unofficial visit with the Crimson Tide and four-star quarterback and Iowa State commit Jet Tamala. We talked about Tamala on multiple episodes of the process recently. He's a guy, like I said, was on campus for that unofficial visit. I had an opportunity to catch up with them and talk with them a little bit about that unofficial visit. Again, before I dive into these quotes, you guys can check out all of these quotes over at Touchdown Alabama, quotes from different prospects who are on campus at the University of Alabama over the weekend. I basically said the visit was really great. He had a really fun time. Of course, Iowa State is expected to get him back on campus in a couple of weeks here for an official visit. And I think in terms of his recruitment, in terms of what he has to consider now that he's got an opportunity to get to Tuscaloosa, have a great visit. He knows that Alabama is recruiting him. He knows that they want a quarterback in this 2026 recruiting class. And he knows that he's a guy who they are really interested in. They have shown this to him before he even got on campus for that unofficial visit. By the way, he said that Nick Sheridan, Alabama's quarterback coach, who went out to actually offer him, he said that from the moment that Nick Sheridan left him, when he came out to visit, he has either hit up his dad, him, or his quarterback coach at least once a day since that visit. So Alabama's coaching staff are showing that they want a quarterback. Jet Tamala is welcome in Tuscaloosa if he wants to be that quarterback in this 2026 recruiting class, but he's also verbally committed to Iowa State. So it looks as if Tamala has a decision to make now that he has gotten to Tuscaloosa and gotten a feel for the program. The other 2026 four-star quarterback the Crimson Tide recently offered is Matt Ponatowski. I've talked about him on previous episodes of the process as well because they both got offered on the same day during the month of May. We take a look at Ponatowski's film. I think the thing that always stands out to me is his ability to just make a wide variety of throws. I think that is so smart by whoever put his huddle together, because a lot of times kids get opportunity to get coaches or parents or people who really know how to put a huddle together really well in terms of their highlight film. Whoever did Ponatowski's did it really well, just showing off his ability to just make a wide range of throws. And you can just see that. Just turn on this film, you're going to see almost a different type of throw on every play. So that is great for a quarterback to show that on his film. He's a guy who wants to play not only football, but play baseball at the next level, because he is a baseball star at his current high school. So he wants to be a two-sport athlete no matter where he goes. He has a Crimson Tide actually in his top four at the moment. He has a tie in his top four along with Alabama. Of course, Alabama. He has Alabama in his top four along with Arkansas, Kentucky, and Oregon. So he will look at those four programs, expected to take an official visit to Alabama as well. He's a guy who threw for 4,217 yards and 57 touchdowns, only throwing 2 interceptions as a junior in 2024. So he's just a standout athlete at the moment. Ponatowski is, and similar to Tamala, once he gets on the campus of the University of Alabama for his official visit, he will have a decision to make if he wants to join the Crimson Tide and look at the situation that he possibly will be walking into. He would be coming into Tuscaloosa right after five-star quarterback Keelan Russell, and Russell, at least at this particular point in time, is expected to be the future of Tuscaloosa at the quarterback position in the Crimson Tide. So whoever takes on that challenge and wants to come to Tuscaloosa, they know that if they want to play early or want to play early on in their career, Keelan Russell or possibly another quarterback like Austin Mack. And I've said this, although I don't think this something that's very highly likely is very likely Ty Simpson could be back in Tuscaloosa. You could be looking at 3 quarterbacks in front of you. So that is something that a guy like Ponatowski and Jet Tamala, both guys, have to consider now that they are looking at the Crimson Tide. We're going to stay with the developments that happened over the weekend with the Crimson Tide extending an offer to 3-star wide receiver Owen Cabelo out of Tennessee. He's a guy who stands at 6'3", clocked in a 4.40 actually at a recent Under Armour count, reportedly runs a 10.7 100-meter dash. So when you combine that together, you're talking about a guy who run a 4.40 and run a sub 11 100-meter dash. You know that he's a guy that has a lot of speed in terms of being timed, but also he has a lot of good football speed, because sometimes that differs a little bit. But he has a lot of football speed that shows on the field, specifically when he can take a play like this play, take a screen play, explode it up the sideline here, and create separation from him and other defenders as he continues to work up the field. It's probably the thing that stands out to me the most is his ability to stretch the field with that type of speed, get behind a cornerback, because he is a guy who can run a 4.40, but he's also a guy who can be able to be dynamic after the catch with that speed, with his ability to work after the catch. So his ability to work after the catch and the ability to stretch the field probably are the 2 things that stand out to me the most when you're looking at Owen and taking a look at the film that he put together from the 2024 football season. But the Crimson Tide extended an offer to him. He's rated as a 3-star recruit on multiple recruiting sites at the moment. He's a guy I think Alabama could really work themselves into a really, really good position with him. He did not have a recruitment that featured a lot of high-profile programs before the Crimson Tide extended that offer. He had offers from programs like Indiana, Vanderbilt, and several other programs. He has official visits locked in with Indiana and Vanderbilt. Looks as if they were the schools standing out the most to him before he got that offer from the Crimson Tide. Wrapped up the 2024 football season with 973 receiving yards, 1,204 all-purpose yards, and 14 total touchdowns. So he had a really impressive 2024 football season. It seems that the Crimson Tide are impressed with the wide receiver. Currently, the Tide do not have a commitment from a wide receiver at the moment. Hopefully, after this past weekend, they are hopeful and basically hoping that they can be fortunate in adding some of those guys that were on campus at the University of Alabama over the weekend at the wide receiver position. But Cabell is a guy I think Alabama fans are going to want to keep note of, because I think the Crimson Tide have a really good chance to make a huge move in this recruitment by extending that offer, immediately becoming the biggest program recruiting Cabell. But we'll continue to see how things progress with them just extending that offer to him in recent days. We're going to stay with the wide receiver position, but we're going to transition into official visit weekend. The Crimson Tide hosted Kenny Darby over the weekend. 4-star wide receiver, verbally committed to the LSU Tigers. Had an opportunity to catch up with them. He said he had a good visit in Tuscaloosa. A visit prompted him to say, hey, I got another decision to make. Although I am verbally committed to LSU, I want to make a final decision on July 4th between the Crimson Tide and the Tigers, because Alabama seems to have given him something to think about. I talked about him on the previous episode of the process with them. With the Crimson Tide, expect to get him on campus for that official visit. Talked about his explosiveness, talked about his ability to be a deceptive route runner, his ability to be quick and explosive with the football in his hands, his ability to go up and get the ball as well. There's a lot to like about Darby as a wide receiver, but like I said, he's verbally committed to LSU. Alabama took a good enough step forward. There's not only this weekend, because I feel like their coaching staff have been doing a great job with recruiting Darby, although he's been committed to LSU for quite some time now, and just getting him on campus an official visit really should speak volumes to people who are following Darby's recruitment. But the Crimson Tide are definitely heavily in the mix for him now. We'll see how things continue to push moving forward, and we will see what happens on the 4th of July with Darby, the 4-star wide receiver who is a native of Louisiana. The Crimson Tide also got Ethan Feaster on campus over the weekend. He's a 4-star wide receiver. If you looked on social media, you saw a lot of Feaster over the weekend, whether it was Ryan Williams being involved with the Crimson Tide recruiting him, whether it was Keelan Russell, who is a Texas product. When you take a look at Feaster, he's a product of DeSoto High School in Texas. So the Crimson Tide's 2025 recruiting class was very, very active on this weekend, basically getting the opportunity to talk with a lot of guys that they have similar connections with. That is why Ryan Williams, of course, with him being the dynamic wide receiver who took over college football, you could say, as a 17-year-old during the 2024 football season. You could see why any wide receiver the Crimson Tide bring on campus during this summer, you're going to see Ryan Williams probably be involved with recruiting him, Russell as well, with him being a Texas product. So I think Alabama continues to be in a really, really good position with Feaster. I think they were in a solid position with him before this official visit even took place, with them having them in the top 4 and basically showing him that they want him in Tuscaloosa even after he reclassified from the 2027 class. I think Alabama has made him a priority from that very moment of them knowing that, hey, I'm just going to skip my senior year and basically go on to play at the next level. I think Feaster has immediately at that point still remained a top target for them, although he was a top target in the 2027 class when he was a 2027 prospect before he reclassified. Braden Ross, a 4-star linebacker out of Georgia, was also on the campus of the University of Alabama. Had an opportunity to talk with them after that visit. Before that visit, he said he wanted to get back to Tuscaloosa and continue to build his relationship with Alabama's coaching staff. He's currently being recruited to play linebacker, so he's getting recruited by Alabama's linebackers coach Chuck Morrell. Alabama's general manager Courtney Morgan is also involved in his recruitment. But after this visit, this is what Braden had to say. It was good being able to talk to the players and ask them questions. Also, being able to be back on campus and see what all they have to offer was great. It was great being back on campus, and Alabama definitely set the bar high. The Crimson Tide were the first program to get Ross on campus for an official visit. He does have Michigan, Tennessee, and Texas in his top 4, along with the Crimson Tide. So those programs are expected to get him on campus for official visits as well. So the Crimson Tide have put themselves in a really, really good position with Ross. Like you said, they set the bar high. You're going to see that a lot. You're going to see that quote a lot, specifically this weekend, because this is the weekend that a lot of schools started their official visit slates for the summer. And you're going to see a lot of them say, hey, this school set the bar high because it is a school that they started with. So it's a school that's going to they're going to measure a lot of their official visits off of that specific visit. And Braden will be no different. Alabama's coaching staff has been consistent with recruiting Braden for quite some time now. Just taking a look at his recruitment, whenever you talked about him making a top school list, him talking about Alabama's coaching staff, telling him that he is a fit. He fits their team in terms of their scheme at the linebacker position, but he also fits their culture in terms of what they do off the field and everything surrounding Alabama football. So right now, I think Alabama put themselves in a really good position with Ross, but those other schools still have those official visits lined up. We'll see how things work out. I think that probably right now on paper, we talk about the position group that Alabama took the biggest step forward with over the weekend. You're probably going to say the offensive line. And I'm going to talk about a couple of these guys. They're starting with Bryson Culie, a 2026 4-star offensive lineman out of Mississippi. Had an opportunity to talk with them. He had great reviews for the Crimson Tide, saying him and his family had a great time in the environment out there is so positive. The players were cool and they kept it real. He said they told him that it ain't easy. It is work every day. He said, but really stood out to him about Coach DeBoer is that Coach DeBoer and also the players at Alabama is that they say that it's all about time management. And once you get that set along with playing football and being a college athlete and knowing that the culture at Alabama is to work hard, saying that they told him that you got to love the sport to do it, or it's going to be miserable. But he said he feels that he believes Alabama could be the top school in his recruitment at the moment. So it looks as if Alabama has jumped in the lead for the 2026 4-star offensive lineman out of Mississippi. He's a guy with the Crimson Tide I've been working on in recent months here. He's a 6'6", 215 pounder who's mean in the trenches with the ability to be a mean and physical offensive lineman. I think he shines the brightest, as you guys can see his film, when he's called upon to open up running lanes while performing a variety of blocking assignments, whether he's pull blocking, whether he's combo blocking, whether he's doing a lot of different things that makes a great offensive lineman when it comes to run blocking at the moment. I think that's where he shines the most, but it looks as if the Crimson Tide took a significant jump forward with Bryson Culie. Deacon Skimon is another offensive lineman who the Crimson Tide had on campus. He's a product of Colorado. He's a guy who actually took his first ever visit to Alabama for that official. And this is what he had to say. This is what he had to say. It was great. We had he talked about him and his family, of course. We had an awesome time. It was just an awesome, fun experience. He said he feels that he is a priority for the Crimson Tide and a great fit for their squad. It's based on what he was told by Alabama's offensive line coach Chris Kapalovic. When I take a look at Skimon, I think the thing that really stands out to me is the ability to block in space and finish blocks in space. I think that's kind of like the biggest thing that really stands out to him. You're going to see him pull a block, as you're going to see on this play, get up to the second level. He's going to be able to make some really nice blocks in the open space. I think he shines there. Nice seal block on that play. So he's a guy who can be a physical offensive lineman as well. He says he can't wait to get back to Tuscaloosa after that official visit. So this is a recruitment, I think, that's going to continue to move forward. I think the Crimson Tide getting him on campus for that official visit, for his first ever visit, is huge. But it also shows that, hey, they probably will need to get him on campus a couple of more times and try to just continue to build that relationship in person. It's really difficult to just get a guy on campus for an official visit for the first time ever and feel really, really good about the moment they leave, that you can get a commitment from that guy. So I think this is a guy who the Crimson Tide who will have to continue to work forward and continue to work on as his recruitment moves forward. But I think he, at least at this point, he knows that he is a priority in Tuscaloosa and that they really like him, and his relationship with Alabama's offensive line coach Chris Kapalovic is going to continue to grow along with his relationship with other members of Alabama's offensive line staff. Malachi Ali was another offensive lineman who was in Tuscaloosa. He's a 4-star offensive lineman out of Hawaii. Unlike Skimon, he's a guy who's actually been in Tuscaloosa a couple of times. Now, when we take a look at what Lee brings to the table, he's projected to be an offensive tackle at the next level. You're talking about a guy who, at the moment, is listed at about 6'7" and weighs 310 pounds. Like I said, Alabama has been recruiting him for quite some time now. And not only has Alabama's coaching staff been recruiting him, when we're talking about this weekend, Tua Tagovailoa, his family actually took out Lee and his family to dinner, it appears, on that official visit weekend. So the Tagovailoa family is involved with the Crimson Tide recruiting the Hawaii 4-star offensive lineman, and it looks as if Alabama took a step forward with him as well. So in terms of the position groups, Alabama probably took the biggest step forward with on his first official visit weekend. Like I said earlier, I probably would say the offensive line. I think wide receiver is a position as well, simply because they offered Cabell. It seems as if that's a guy that they could really like here in this 2026 recruiting class, along with Feaster having a great visit, and along with that visit with Darby, making him second guess his decision to commit to LSU. I think that is significant as well. Just the developments at quarterback as a whole probably just stands out in terms of what this first official visit weekend was. We'll continue to get updates from other guys who were in town on our site here at touchdownalabama.com. Of course, we are an independent outlet that strives to get our own information all the time. So we're going to continue to pump out more content, and we'll return with another episode of the process where we preview another big official visit weekend with the Crimson Tide that's coming up on this weekend. But like I said, more content is over at touchdownalabama.com. Be sure to subscribe to our site as well as subscribing to our Touchdown Alabama YouTube. As always, I am Justin Smith, the Director of Recruiting and Managing Editor here at Touchdown Alabama.
Process.